So, what is the best exercise strategy for women in postmenopause? So, my background is I love to exercise. Well, I love how I feel after and sometimes during exercise. And I've been a lifelong worker outer. I love how it makes me feel, both mentally and physically strong in my body. The truth of the matter is that these days, women are losing weight and they're using GLP-1s. And for many women, this is an answer to a long time struggle. The inability to lose weight at this stage in life can be really challenging. And for many women, this GLP-1 usage is, bringing a lot of relief. And they have less food noise, fewer cravings, and weight loss finally feels possible. But there's another side of this conversation that needs attention. Because if you lose weight without preserving lean muscle mass, you might be smaller, but metabolically weaker. And after menopause, that matters. Today, I want to talk to you about the best exercise strategy for women after menopause and why it's so important if you're taking a GLP-1 medication, considering taking a GLP-1 medication, coming off of a GLP-1 medication, or you're just a woman in menopause that is struggling to maintain muscle mass. Because unfortunately, the truth is weight loss is not the same thing as health. And why does this matter? Let's start with a little context. As women go through menopause, we naturally experience hormonal changes that affect muscle mass, bone density, recovery, strength, and body composition. Now, add significant weight loss on top of that. Research suggests that approximately 15 to 20% of the weight loss using GLP-1 medications comes from lean body mass, and that includes muscle. This is why this conversation matters. And I'm gonna help you understand, so what's the big deal? Why do we need to have muscle, right? Muscle is the biggest projector of longevity. Muscle is the biggest projector of long-term health. And so the goal isn't simply to lose weight, but the goal is to lose fat while maintaining the tissues that support healthy aging. And so let's look at, what does muscle actually do? When most people think of muscle, they think of, appearance, right? Having definition, or maybe they're even afraid of looking bulky or too big, looking larger because they have more muscle. Well, I always like to use this analogy or this example. How much mass does fat or muscle take up in our body? Our fist is the size of 1 pound of fat, whereas our pinky is the size of 1 pound of muscle. Notice what takes up more space: fat. So muscle, the more we have of it, we can still be very lean. So that's a good example of fat and muscle, what it looks like, how much space it takes up. Yeah, so what most people think about when they think about muscle is appearance. But muscle has so much more of an impact on our lifestyle and our longevity than we realize. Muscle helps support metabolism, blood sugar stabilization, insulin sensitivity, balance, mobility, brain health, strength, and independence as we age. I mean, that's quite a list. I don't know about you, but as I age, I certainly want to be independent. I don't want to be necessarily in a nursing home when I'm much older. I want to be independent. And that means I need an able, strong body to help me get there. And muscle is it's the greatest predictor of how well we'll function later in life. It's what helps you carry groceries, get up off the floor, travel, hike, play with grandchildren, live independently. And that's why preserving it matters so much. The biggest exercise mistake I see women making during this time of life or during weight loss is too much focus on burning calories, right? The goal of weight loss, we think, okay, well, I'll eat this much and subtract out this much with exercise and create that deficit. Well, unfortunately, that focus doesn't work super well for a number of reasons. It slows down our metabolism and it doesn't focus on preserving muscle. Many women just assume I just need more cardio, but what most women need is a smarter balance of strength training, cardiovascular training, recovery, so important, and daily movement, just movement, right? And that combination is what's going to move the needle. And again, move the needle for the long term, not this up and down, we're gonna work towards that long, healthy, thriving life. And so I'm gonna give you 5 strategies of exercising post-menopause that will help you live that long, healthy life that we're aiming for. Number 1 strategy is, drumroll please, yes, you guessed it, prioritize strength training. So we know this, right? You've got to strength train. So what is it that gets us from in the way? And maybe it's not knowing what to do, not having a plan of action, like I need a 10-minute workout I can go do right after work. Or having that, making sure first thing in the morning, your clothes are right by your bedside, you put them on, you get out the door, right? These are some things we need to think about before we're like, I just need to strength train. It's how and when am I gonna do it? And then getting the right kind of guidance and support to put together a plan that works in your life. Do you have 10 minutes? Do you have 30 minutes? Maybe it's 10 minutes twice a day. And, every person that I work with is different. So it's a matter of really figuring out what can I do. And it is really important to do strength training post-menopause, period. So whatever you can do it. Research consistently shows that resistance training helps preserve muscle mass, improve insulin sensitivity, supports glucose control, maintains strength, and supports your bone health, right? And then again, we know it helps with brain function, healthy aging. So this becomes so important when appetite is lower and weight loss is happening. The goal isn't to become a bodybuilder, right? I don't want that. I bet you don't want that unless you do, which is super cool too, But most of us don't want that. We just want the benefits and we want to preserve muscle because we are losing muscle by the minute as we go through this stage of life. So aim for just 2 to 3 strength sessions per week. Remember I said 2 to 4, depending on what you can do, right? Maybe it's 4 short sessions, maybe it's 2 full body sessions, maybe you split it up, maybe it's a circuit one day, maybe it's legs another day, upper body, however you can figure it out in your schedule, get it in there. And if you're someone who struggles to make this happen, I encourage you to hire somebody to help you. Whether it's somebody to just help you set up a plan, maybe it's an online coaching. I do that with clients. There's many different ways to get the support. And maybe you just need somebody for a month to get you going. But you want to focus on these movements: squats, deadlifts, presses, like a bench press, a push-up, a shoulder press, a row. So a bent over row where you're pulling. So squatting, pushing, push, squat, pull, a bent over row. Carries, this helps definitely working your core and your stability, your mobility, like carrying 2 heavy weights and just walking, holding the weights. Those can be really simple and really, you don't need a whole lot to make this work. But consistency, really building a program and staying consistent with that program is very effective to build muscle and to preserve it. Strategy number 2 is don't neglect bone health, okay? Because it's super important. I just had my first DEXA scan and I've got some osteoporosis due to some genetics and a couple other factors. So I am doubling down on my strength training. So because we can make it back, we can build bone back. But in menopause, post-menopause, losing estrogen and those declining hormones, really, our bones take a hit. And so being postmenopausal, and for me, having a genetic predisposition to osteoporosis on my mother's side, yeah, I'm at risk. So I'm being super careful. And unfortunately, weight loss can contribute to additional bone loss if we're not careful. And so the most effective exercises for bone health are resistance training, impact activities when appropriate, right? As long as, you can do that, but impact, so jump training, even just a light bounce, right? Doing some split lunge hops, right? Skipping, things like that. Jumping from side to side. Those can be really beneficial. That impact, that light impact is really good. Running, jogging, if that's something you do. And weight bearing exercises. So, which would be running, and actually walking can count as that. Maybe walking with a rucksack, that can be really helpful for your spine, preserving muscle, or bone rather. And then, but really lifting weights is sending the most effective signal to your bones. And our bones need that signal. Like I said, especially at this time in life, and especially if you're on a GLP-1, you're thinking about going on one, or you're coming off of one, or again, if you just want to preserve muscle mass in menopause and preserve bone mass in menopause. This is how we ought to do it. Strategy number 3, you need to build an aerobic base, okay? So strength training, non-negotiable, essential, but so is cardiovascular fitness. One of my favorite tools for women after menopause is zone 2 training. Personally, I love it myself. It feels amazing. It's kind of one of those feel-good endorphin cardio workouts where you could go and go. It helps improve mitochondrial health, aerobic capacity, metabolic flexibility, recovery, and endurance. So really, really beneficial. And this could be things like brisk walking, right? Cycling, jogging, hiking, swimming. Pickleball is great for this. I love that. But something where I always think of like a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being you're going as fast as you possibly can. And 1 is just starting to move. You want to be somewhere an effort between a 7 and an 8, where you could hold a conversation, but you don't really feel like it, but you could, right? You want that kind of effort, not huffing and puffing, but also not meandering. There's a purpose. It's a purposeful effort. And, it should feel sustainable, not like you've got to stop after 2 minutes, right? You want it to be sustainable. And for most women, 2 to 4 sessions a week is a great place to start. So see what you can do with that. Remember, if you're starting from 0, go for two times, maybe 30 minutes each, and build from there. Same with the strength training. If you're starting from 0, go with it 2 times a week. Maybe it's just 20 minutes, but you're starting. You're committing. You're going to time block your schedule. Because remember, as I said, it's important to put it in your schedule, to make sure you're committing to a time that works for you in your life. Number 4 is VO2 max. Don't forget about this. This is one of the best longevity predictors that we have. So VO2 max measures how effectively your body uses oxygen during exercise. Research consistently shows that higher cardiovascular fitness is associated with better health outcomes and lower mortality risk, period. That's big. So it gives us some incentive to use that little bit of pain, lots of gain, right? And not that we want it to be painful, but it's going to be hard. It's a challenging workout. This kind of workout is harder. It's not the zone 2 consistent, steady, low. It's an up and then a down. It's an interval, right? Interval training. So yeah, it doesn't mean you have to suffer through this intense workout, super intense workouts every day, but it does mean occasionally challenging your cardiovascular system is super valuable. So it might look like, like I said, some intervals, maybe, the gold standard of VO2 max training is the Norwegian 4x4. And basically what it means is you work for 4 minutes and you recover for 3 minutes and you repeat that 4 times. So 4x4. And your effort is progressively increasing over that 4 minutes to the point of, if we're again using that scale of 1 to 10, which keeps it easy, you're gonna start that first minute at about a 7, move through an 8 and up to an 8.5, 9, 7, 8, 8.5, and 9. 9 to 9.5. So really kind of moving up, really being that very, very challenging effort by the end, and then 3 minutes recovery and then repeating. So that's just one example. There's lots of ways to do interval training. You could do hill work, different efforts on a cycle, indoor or outdoor, and then shorter, higher intensity workouts, HIIT training, right? Where you maybe do something really hard. You could do a Tabata, which is 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off. You could do one exercise or come up with 4 different exercises. Again, repeating that 20 seconds on, 10 off, 20 seconds on. You go through a 4-minute cycle. You get 1 minute rest. You do it again. So, or you could just do one of those. That's pretty intense. See how you do with that. And then as you get fitter, gradually add on and maybe taking a break in between sets. Please, if any of this, reach out to me, ask a question, and I'll respond in the comments. But think of VO2 max training as maintaining your body's reserve capacity. So think of VO2 max training as maintaining your reserve capacity, okay? So you've got it in reserve. You've got that aerobic base, that strong kind of ability to stress and then de-stress. Yeah, stress and then de-stress. We want the body to know how to do that as we age. We lose that, but we're not if we're doing this kind of training, right? So, and it doesn't have to be, it can be once every 2 weeks. It can be once a week. I would start with once every few weeks, then move to once every other week. Maybe you move to once a week. Twice a week is a lot, but that can work if well spread out with lots of recovery. So, and all depending on your goals too, right? Finally, strategy number 5 is, and this is a biggie next to strength training, in my opinion, is recovery. Recovery. And this is the piece many women miss. I can fall victim to this one. I like to work out daily, right? Get me out there. I want to do something. But unfortunately, if we go at this stage in life, it can backfire, right? We don't have the same recovery reserves on hand. And especially if you're somebody who's trying to lose weight, eating fewer calories, your body may have fewer resources available for recovery. So it's important to realize recovery is a piece of puzzle here for overall health and well-being. It doesn't mean, it isn't a weakness when you need to recover. It's an important piece, just as important as strength training, right? Recovery is actually where the benefits happen, right? Where change happens. Yeah, it's the adaptation happens when we are recovering. And so with recovery, we want to prioritize sleep, protein, really important, hydration, rest days, and stress management. Whether that for you looks like for me, a lot of times it's walking in the woods, just breathing, no phone, right? Leave the phone at home, just breathe and move. Not a workout, but just movement. Or if you like to meditate, sit in a comfy chair, feet on the ground, and just sit and do maybe a 5 to 10 minute meditation. Maybe it's looking out in nature while you do that. Maybe it's just doing some breath work, right? I love the 2X breath, right? Where you breathe in a certain number and then you exhale out double whatever that number is, right? Longer exhales. Because the goal isn't training harder at this stage in life, which is great because I don't know about you, but there was a time where that was what I did. But now it's really to recover better, right? That's what we want. The way to look at this exercise is training for the life you want to live. I think of it like people say, oh, are you training for anything? And I'm like, yeah, I'm training to live a long, healthy life. I've already had some hiccups along the way, right? So for me, and I don't have the greatest genetics. So I think about that, and I think about the epigenetics, right? That's this stuff. What can I do to live my best life and enjoy it moving into this phase that we're in? And so when I ask women, what are you training for? They never say, I rarely hear them say, I want to see a smaller number on the scale. Nobody says that. I hear, I want more energy. I want to travel. I want to hike. I want to have, be able to keep up with my grandchildren. I want to stay independent. That's what we're really training for. Do you want to feel good in your body? Yes. There is nothing wrong with that either. But I think when that's the end all be all, we lose sight of what it is we really want, which is to really enjoy this time in our life moving forward. And so I think just to remind ourselves when we do get focused on the number on the scale, which we all can, to kind of phase out, to kind of come out and look at the bigger picture and really think about what is it I want for my life from this point on. Because I think it's all those things I just mentioned that we're really training for. Whether you're taking a GLP-1, you're considering one, or you're coming off of one, or you're not taking one at all, the principles remain the same. Protect your muscle, support your bones, build your aerobic fitness, challenge your body, and respect recovery. Because weight loss is not the same as health. The goal isn't simply to become smaller. The goal is to become stronger, more resilient, more capable, and healthier for the long term. In the next video, we're going to talk about sleep, recovery, and nervous system regulation, and why they may be the missing piece for so many women in midlife. So stay tuned, comment, ask questions, subscribe to my channel. I hope to see you again soon. Have a great day.